So good evening everyone. This is Jaini Solanki and I and my friend Digvijay Singh will be the hosts for the evening. As the transition from the first year to the second year is around the corner, we the members of SWG are back with the DepC Talks for you, where our panel of seniors will be answering the doubts and addressing the problems faced by the first years during the procedure of filling their choices for DepC. As we had circulated a Google form, we had received plenty of queries, and among them, our team has sorted out some general queries which we will be covering here. Rest, there will also be opportunities for the audience to ask questions. You may post the questions in the chat. In the end, we will be having a segment where we will be addressing your queries posted in the chat box.
As all the panelists are here, so we can start the session without a further ado. First of all, we'll be having a brief introduction of our 10 panelists. So I would request our panelists to please turn on their camera if there are not any issues.
I hope I'm audible and visible.
Yes. So let's start with Neha. Hello, Neha.
Hello, guys. Hello, everyone. I am Neha Gupta. I'm a second year undergraduate student from the Department of Chemical Engineering, enrolled in its BTech course. Last year, I DepC'd to Chemical Engineering Department from Mining Engineering Department. And with that, I'd like to mention my DepC CGPA was 9.27, if I remember correctly, though my overall CGPA was 9.31. But then only few subjects are considered for DepC, so my DepC CGPA was 9.27. That's it.
Thank you, Neha. Hello, Viswesh.
Yeah, guys, I hope I'm audible and visible. So I'm Viswesh Nagaswamy. I'm a second year undergraduate student of the Department of Electrical Engineering. Enrolled in its BTech course, I changed my department from mechanical engineering to electrical engineering last year. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Viswesh. Hello, Dhruv.
Yes, hi everyone. So my name is Dhruv Rathi. I'm also undergraduate student from the Department of Electronics and Electrical Communication Engineering. And after my first year, I changed my department from electrical engineering to electronics and electrical communications.
Thank you, Dhruv. Hello, Asutosh.
Yeah, hello guys. Am I audible?
Yes.
So hi everyone. I'm Ashutosh Guge. I'm a second year undergraduate student of the Department of Electrical Engineering, enrolled in its Instrumentation Engineering BTech course. So in my first year, I DepC'd from Chemical Engineering to Instrumentation Engineering.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Hello, Aditya.
Hello guys, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible.
Hello everyone, so I'm Aditya Pal, a second year undergraduate student of the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, enrolled in its integrated MSc course of economics. And last year I changed my department from the Department of Biotechnology to economics. And that's about it.
Thank you, Aditya. Hello, Shiladitya.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
So hello everyone, I'm Shiladitya De. I am a second year undergraduate student of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, enrolled in its dual degree course. Last year, I changed my department from Chemical Engineering BTech course to Computer Science and Engineering dual degree course. That's it for now.
Thank you, Shiladitya.
So without further ado, let's start with our first question. So the question is, what is the procedure for applying for DepC and how is the DepC CG calculated? Could any one of you try to give the points first?
I think I can take up this question. So for this, you'll basically be getting a notice via email. There'll be this tab activated for department change on ERP, and proper rules, regulations, everything would be given in the email. So you don't need to care about that. Also, how exactly is the DepC CG calculated? Since our whole semester was online, only the theoretical subjects were calculated for DepC CG. Not all the subjects were considered. So Please correct me if I go wrong, guys. But as far as I remember, only mathematics 1, 2, and chemistry, PDS theory, electrical ET, basic engineering mechanics, and POW, only these 7 subjects were considered for DepC.
Thank you, Neha. Could any one of you add any points?
Yes, I think that's pretty much it. So you apply for DepC through ERP, and there you have to fill your preference list, and according to the CG, the departments are given.
Right. And as far as I remember, at most you can fill up to 10 preferences.
Yes.
So any other panelists who would like to add some points?
Yes, I think Neha covered it pretty well. The only thing I think Neha missed was the restrictions for which branches you can apply to. Those who have been enrolled in your dual degree courses in the first year can only apply to other dual degree courses. And for the others, you can apply to any course which you wish.
Okay, so Shiladitya, Viswesh, would you like to add some points?
Oh yeah, I think pretty much everything has been covered.
Okay, so I think that it has pretty
Same
much
thing.
covered all the points. Now we can move to the next question. So the question is, when it comes to non-circuital branches, they all have nearly identical placement stats. So how should people prefer these branches? Like, for example, mechanical versus agriculture. How should they do this? So Ashutosh, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so if you're considering the placement statistics, then I'm guessing most of you all consider the non-core placement statistics, like the tech companies, the consult companies, etc. And so if you're going with that and you find like the non-circuital branches of similar statistics, then I think since you're not focusing on your core department, then choosing a branch which has a pretty less loaded subjects in their core should be effective, because since you will want to spend most of your time preparing for your non-core placements and internships. So if you have loaded departments such as mechanical, where some courses will take up a lot of your time, then it may hamper your preparation for your non-core placements which you will be aiming for.
Yeah, means any of the panelists would like to add to?
Oh yeah, so adding on to that, there are some companies which open for certain, non-circuital branches. Okay, so try to look for these departments, and these departments usually have a higher CGPA cutoff. So if you had to choose between two non-circuital branches, there are some departments which have a slight edge over some others. So just try to look for those and apply for those.
Okay, so any means Dhruv, Aditya, would you like to add something? Neha, Shiladitya.
Yes, I think so. Before applying to any branch, you should consult from seniors of that branch so that you get to know like what all subjects do they have in that branch, and so means the option should be based on your liking also. So you should not opt for any non-sectoral branch even if you don't like the subject. So you should make an informed choice.
Exactly. I'd like to add on to that point. It's not just the CGPA cutoff, the last year cutoff that you actually need to consider. Along with that, you also need to keep in mind your personal interest, whether you're actually liking the course. So I would suggest to actually go on the curriculum page of IIT KGP and to actually go through the courses of each of these branches and then decide whether you'd be able to cover the courses, whether you actually like the courses. So that's something that you really need to keep in mind while deciding a branch.
Yeah, thank you. Aditya and Shiladitya, would you like to add something?
I think that the other panelists have pretty much covered all the points. Just I want to add one single point that like before choosing the point, also beside checking the curriculum, you should also go over the past year grade distribution also. For that, there is something called Chronos Grade Keeper. There is a site. So like there you can check the last year grade distribution also, so as to make an informed choice.
Aditya, would you like to add something?
Yes, I think everything has been covered. Like, keep the curriculum in mind, and if you are mostly looking for your tech and IT sector, then obviously go with the placement. And like my co-panelist said, keep an eye on the companies, keep an eye on the branches, which only a few companies open for. So yes.
Yeah, so I think it pretty much covered all the points. So now we can move on to the next question.
So our next question is there a rule that if the seats in a certain department surpass 10% of their original strength during the DepC procedure, all students who have secured the cutoff for that department will not be allowed to acquire a seat in that department? A lot of people are having ambiguity regarding this rule. Please clarify it. Any one of you can
Okay,
step in.
so I would like to take up this question. So the thing is, it's not a cutoff per se. The cutoff is decided by the students who actually achieve the department change. So if let's say 15 students achieve the department change, the CGPA of the 15th student will be the DepC cutoff. So there isn't a pre-decided cutoff per se. And yes, like if you're after the DepC, the strength of the department can't surpass 10% of the original strength. Yes, that's true. So I'll make it clear. If you have 100 students in your department before DepC, it cannot cross 110, but it can fall below 90. So keep this in mind. The 10% rule doesn't apply for outgoing students, but it does apply for incoming students. And as far as the cutoff is concerned, it is just the grade of the final student who makes it into the department. So yes.
Right. Also, one more point I would like to add is if two students have the same CGPA, J rank becomes the tiebreaker. That's also one of the things.
Okay, guys, this was pretty much insightful. Does anyone like to add something? Okay, so all the points are covered. We can move on to the next question. So, do you believe that the 4-year courses are preferable to 5-year courses? Is the DepC for dual degrees in all the branches lower than the 4-year courses? Like, what's the general trend here at IIT Kharagpur? Please elaborate.
Actually, I'd like to take up this question because my decision was solely driven by this fact. So the thing is, in with respect to 4-year courses, you graduate with a bachelor's degree. So a couple of advantages. First, if you're going for a job, that saves you 1 year of income. And if you're going for master's admits, like for PhDs, then again, like the thing is, you'll be doing your master's from another university where you'll probably be applying abroad or something. So that's that. And with respect to the CG cutoffs for dual degrees, that is generally the trend. But I think there was a shift for EC this year, if I'm not correct. The dual degree actually closed above 4 year. Just correct me if I'm wrong. So
Yes, I think
the thing about 4 year and 5 year courses. So this is something I'd like to stress on this. Don't actually blindly go behind the 4 year course clout because that is something I did. Um, do carefully look at the curriculum and if you actually see a department which is better in some sense, which is more interesting to you, do not hesitate to take up the dual degree equivalent of that department instead of a 4 year course of another department.
yes. So the DepC for dual degrees, it is not necessary that it is less than those of the 4-year courses. So it depends on like how many people the dual degree students can only DepC to dual degree of another department. So if there are more people of dual degree who are getting higher CG, so the cutoff will also increase in that way. So it is not necessary. And I think for in our time, the DepC CG of CS was also higher than for dual. It was higher for CS also.
Okay, so would anyone like to add something? Okay, so I think the doubts regarding this question are cleared. We can advance further.
So the question is that should someone with an OINA dual degree branch move to the chemical engineering or wait for an interdisciplinary MTech in AI, machine learning or financial engineering? So would any one of you like to go on first answer?
Yeah, all right. I'll take up this question. So see, first of all, the interdisciplinary switch, there's no branch restriction for this. So I think pretty much all the branches of dual degree are open to interdisciplinary switch in AI. There's financial engineering and there's entrepreneurship engineering. So that should not be an issue if you change to another dual degree branch of another department. You will still be able to do an interdisciplinary switch. Okay, and secondly, then again, if you're considering ONA and chemical, then you could look into maybe the placement statistics of those branches. Because some branches, as mentioned previously in the non-circuitous departments, there are some departments which have better placement statistics because there are some companies which only open to a few of the non-circuitous branches. So you can keep that in mind when making the switch.
So would
I'd like to, yeah, I'd like to add one more very important point that in this case, since you've specifically mentioned OINA dual degree, you will not be able to get the MTech in AI ML because that is only open to four-year students, and you're not allowed to DepC into any four-year course from dual degree. However, you can still try for financial engineering.
so would any of the other panelists want to add something to this?
Yeah, adding on to what Ashutosh said, one of those departments which particularly have better placement stats being non-circuital is chemical. So since someone has explicitly mentioned chemical, I think it's actually a good idea to move into chemical.
So I think that it has covered all the points. Thank you all for your valuable insights. So now let's move on to the next question. So the question is, if someone is enrolled in mechanical dual degree, can he or she switch to electrical and also get MTech in financial engineering, which is an interdisciplinary course? So what's your point of view on this? Can any one of you tell, please?
I think we've already covered that question. You can get a DepC as well as an interdisciplinary switch over to financial engineering. That's possible. There's no restriction to that.
Okay, so I think we have covered this question. Let's move to the next question.
So the question is, should a person choose a branch that is less loaded or one that is based on the previous year's cutoffs? Like what should be the mindset of a person while filling up these choices?
Okay, I would like to
So
take up this. Is anyone else? Acha, Sheila. Uh, Sheila,
yep,
would you like to take up this
yeah,
question?
you can take you can go for the question.
Okay, so I think this question has been partially covered in the previous questions, but like the choice should solely be dependent on your career path that you want to pursue. If you are solely looking for jobs, then obviously take a less loaded branch and one with better placement stats. If you have a specific aim, like if someone who wants to go into, let's say, mathematical research, then there is no reason for that person to, let's say, opt for CS dual over MNC. So just if you have a very particular interest, go for that branch. If not, just go with the less loaded branch with the better placement stats. So yes, that's about it.
So
Okay,
like
so
talking about the previous year's cutoffs, like they are you can consider them like taking into consider the choice of the large section of people. But if you are having a specific interest into some domain, like my Aditya has said that research in mathematics, then you should go for MNC over CS dual or CS. So like if you're having a specific choice in any domain, then go for that branch. And if you are choosing for a less loaded branch because you want to go for a job, then you should go for that. That's specifically on you, what your desire is.
okay, so what I get from you guys is like it should depend on the vision of the person. You should not blindly just follow the previous year cutoffs. Okay,
Yeah,
great. Would
exactly.
anyone like to add something?
Yes, I just want to stress on the cutoff part. See, it's because that is not the sole thing you should prioritize. Because just because you have a 9.8 CGPA, for example, it is not necessary for you to DepC into CS or EC, right? What are your aims and what is feasible for you according to yourself? That should be a priority, not what everyone else thinks. If you have a higher CGPA, then of course there's a trend that people with higher CGPAs DepC into these high ranked departments. So that should not be a criteria, at least not a priority criteria while you choose your department.
So yes, and adding on to what Ashutosh said, like the branch you choose will be your department for the next 3 or 4 years. You can't change it again after you do a DepC. So there is no point in choosing a branch just because it is less loaded, but then like regretting the choice for the next 3 or 4 years. I would say that you should rather take up something you are interested in and then like stick with it for the next however many years. So yes, the previous year's cutoffs obviously play a role, but like Ashutosh said, they shouldn't be the top of your priority list.
Yes, so it should not be like a rat race. Like if everyone is taking CS, we should not. We should also take that. It should be a good. Okay, so we can move
Yes.
forward. Thank you. So our next question is, since the mathematics and computing course is a BS 4-year course, does that mean that the dual degree students will not be able to apply for MNC? Or will there will be some seats so that students who have a dual degree can get a combined BS course, BS MS course? A lot of people were having doubt regarding this question. Please throw some light on this.
Yeah.
As far
So
as
yeah,
go
go
on.
ahead. That's fine. Go.
As far as I remember, in our time, maths and computing was an integrated MSc course. I'm not really sure about the BS course, but still, since you've explicitly mentioned dual degree students are anyway not allowed to DepC into any MSc course also. So that's also one of the things.
Yes, so like the students who are in B till the last year, there was only MSc in mathematics. So the students who were in mathematics in the first year, they were allowed to DepC to both BTech and dual degree programs. But the dual degree students were allowed to only DepC to dual degree programs of other departments. And the BTech students can DepC to both MSc, BSc, or BTech programs or dual programs.
Okay, so I think that the doubt regarding this question would be cleared. We can move forward.
So the next question is it true that your branch has an impact on your participation in international training programs? So
Uh,
could you please give your insights on this?
yeah, I'd like to take this up. This is actually very true. Okay, so with respect to most universities, professors generally check which department you're applying from, and if the project or the problem statement of the international training program is directly relevant to your department, then yes, you will be given priority, and in most cases, it will only be open to those people of that department. So this is true. Like there are still programs which are flexible on departments, but in general, if you're from department X and if you're applying for a program which is in department X, you will definitely have an edge over someone else who's applying from another department.
Thank you, Visvesh. Can anyone of you add anything?
I think if you are cold mailing to the professors for like foreign trainings, then for any department, student can mail and they might or might not get selected. But I think in some programs, they do have some department criteria.
So would any one of the other panelists would like to add something?
No, I guess like, pretty much everything is covered. So like in conclusion, see, it is not impossible to get a foreign training program in your department of choice if you have some other department, but it becomes a bit difficult. The some of the direct programs which can come under the FTP portal of IRC, they do have some branch restrictions. Even while cold mailing, some professors do consider, do prefer you if you are from their department. But again, it's not impossible, but yes, it gets difficult.
Also, I'd like to add one more point. There are FTEs, there are most of the AI related FTEs that's provided by the IR cell. They're given based on the skills and previous projects and not just on the department. So that's somewhere where you can try. It's not branch specific.
Yeah, so thank you for your valuable insights. So let's move on to the next question. So basically, which should we choose between a circuital loaded branch and a non-circuital less loaded branch with similar placement stats? Would any one of you go in first to answer this?
I think we have sort of covered this question. Like, it is purely based on your interest. And if they have similar placement stats, then I think you should, if they have similar placement stats, and then depending on the profile you want to go for, like let's say someone wants to go into finance profile. So in that case, I don't think circuital and non-circuital would make that much of a difference. And since you are saying that they have similar placement stats, so as the less loaded branch would be preferable. So like this is a very specific answer. So the answer to this question will be based purely on your interests. So I think we have covered this question, I think 2 times now. So yes, that's about it.
I think I would like to add something. So I think it is true that the circuital branches has more opportunities than non-circuital branches. So like in CDC internships and placements, more companies come for open for circuital than for non-circuital. So if you are aiming for the CDC internships for like tech profiles, then you should I think you should opt for circuital branches, and like you should also check out their course curriculum so that you like there. It is also true that circuital branches are like loaded. I would not say like all the branches have some load, so that would not be true if I say circular branches are more loaded. But still, I think you should talk with seniors of those branches, and if you think it is possible for you to complete the curriculum of those branches, and then you will have more opportunities also, so you can go for circuital branches. And in the non-circuital branches, there are some departments like industrial companies do open for them also, so you can check with seniors of those departments also to know more about it.
Thank you all. Yes.
That's a very good point. I just wanted to add on that. Nowadays, after circuital, industrial engineering is the most preferred non-circuital branch because there are a lot of companies that opens for circuital branches and specifically just for industrial and circuital. So that's something that you can keep in mind before choosing a department. And load-wise also, industrial is obviously less loaded than the circuital departments, and plus the opportunities that you get in industrial is far better than the other non-circuital branches. So that is something that you can keep in mind while selecting the branch.
Yeah, so thank you all for clearing this out. So we can move on to the next question.
our next question is, which branch, EC or mathematics and computing, is better for software profile, considering the equal interest in both branches? Like if someone wants to go in a software profile, which among these two would help best in this case? Shiladitya, would you like to take this up? Oh, Dhruv, you can go.
Yes. Okay, so I think both have equal opportunities with respect to software profile. The thing is that in EC, you will have to do more labs and you will have to give time to the EC curriculum also. In mathematics, I don't think they have those many labs, and in the offline semesters, I think these labs will take more of your time. So that is the thing. And in EC, there are core companies also, which come for the electrical core. So that is also a point. If you are interested in EC core, then you should opt for EC core. For software profile, I think EC and mathematics do have the same opportunities.
So it's like mathematics and computing is more consisted of the mathematics part and computing less. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Could you please repeat, like, what did you say?
Okay, so I said that the branch mathematics and computing is consisted more of the mathematics part and computing less.
I mean, in a way,
so
like, yeah, Visaj, go ahead.
Yeah. So the thing is, this was actually the case until last year, but you guys might know that starting from our batch, the curriculum has been revamped. So the current MNC curriculum actually has a lot of computer science and data science oriented courses. So I would say that it has actually gotten a lot more industry relevant as the department as a whole. So just keep that in mind when you're opting for mathematics and computing. And another thing about mathematics and computing is that it might be a little tough to keep your CGPA high because a lot of these courses are absolutely graded. So you will have to score above 90 for the top grade and so on. And as opposed to this, in EC, you will have some core companies coming in just for EC. So in case your interests decide to shift towards core after a few courses, you still have that route to go through. While MNC as a whole is definitely less loaded than EC as a branch.
Okay, it was pretty much insightful. Does any of the panelists would like to share their views other than what?
So the other panelists have pretty much covered everything. So I would like to add a few points for mathematics, there is the load is pretty much less in comparison to EC branch, but considering the grading, for grading in mathematics, you are going to have an absolute grading in most of the subjects. So this will be a some sort of a problem for many students. And in mathematics also, you are getting some of the very well-known CS courses, you have computer architecture, you have data structure algorithms, you also have AI and machine learning and all those things. And in addition to this, you also have a few breadths and electives also in addition to this from the department. And so in terms of software, you actually get an edge in mathematics and computing. But and again, the other panelists have said, in EC you get a more branch opportunities in terms of core also. So pretty much if you are also interested in core, then I would say that EC is the branch for you. And if you're only saying that you're only interested in a software profile, then I would say that mathematics and computing is the branch for you, because it is pretty much loaded, less loaded than EC also.
Okay, so both the branches have its pros and cons, but if you want to go solely into the software profile, MNC would be the one. Okay, so I think that most of the points are cleared. We can move on to the next question. So our next question is, which of the non-circuital branches is the best for entering into IT jobs? Which branch has the least amount of work? If someone doesn't want to go in their core and want to explore and go into software profile, which of the branches would help in the best case?
I think we kind of talked about it in the previous questions. So See, in observing the general trend, see, chemical is considered to be like one of the very less loaded departments in non-circuital, and like the ratio of number of companies opening for them to the load is pretty high for you. So like you'll have a lot of company opportunities in IT sector for chemical engineering, and comparatively the road is also less. And again, like there's industrial also after that, because the industrial is not that loaded, but again the opportunities which industrial gets are very much like shoulder to shoulder to the opportunities which circuital departments get. These two like kind of stand out when in this question.
Okay, so the companies opening for these two branches are higher than the other non-circuital branches.
Yeah, in a way you can say that. Like there are I mean there are uh, greater opportunities, and if you're comparing the if you're taking into consideration the amount of load you have to do for your core department, that is pretty much less in chemical.
Okay. So would anyone like to add point to this?
I think that's it.
Okay, so all the point doubts regarding these questions are cleared. We can move on to the next question.
So this is the question that should we choose a branch based on its opportunities or our own personal interest, despite the fact that the latter has fewer opportunities? So like it's a little bit covered, but if anyone of you wanted to add a point to this.
Yeah, since this has been brought up, so I see a lot of people directly rejecting their core and going into software profiles because they're larger in number and they have the illusion of higher pay in general. So I'd recommend people to not do this and actually try to explore your own core as well. Like there are a lot of people who are doing very well from departments like material science, chemical, and by just going into their core. So if you're interested and driven enough, like trust me, you will actually do very well in the department. So try to stick to your interests. Unless money is like a really bad constraint or something, like I really think one should follow something and try to study something that they actually have interest in.
Like, yes, adding on to what Vishwesh said, I think rather than choosing a branch in which you have no interest, it will just be a grind for you rather than going for a branch in which you have interest in. So even if the branch has fewer interests, but fewer opportunities, but you have a keen interest in that, if you work hard as well, this will be your branch for what 3 or 4 years. So there is no point in taking a branch just on hearsay and previous years cutoffs and then regretting a decision when you could have taken a branch in which you are interested in. If you take a branch in which you have interest in, not only will you have fun with your studies, but there's a high chance that you will actually excel in your field and you can make the most of the few opportunities you have. So yes.
Yeah, like see, adding on to that, even if you're choosing a branch just because of the opportunities, say you're like aiming for tech profiles or finance or consult profiles. See, when you're appearing for CDC and later on for placements, your CGPA is taken into consideration. And if you just choose a branch solely because of its opportunities and it's very strictly against your interest and you're like not at all liking the course, then maintaining your CGPA throughout these like 3-4 years will be very difficult for you, because like, at some point of time you'll have to take some interest and devote like a significant amount of your time towards your department as well. So I think you should prefer your personal interest more than blindly following the number of opportunities you'll get in the future, because you have to go through that branch, as Aditya said, for 3 or 4 years. That you should like don't just consider after 3 or 4 years I'll be placed over here or will be placed over there. Just imagine that you have to like grind through the department for 3 years. Like that is a long journey, so do take your personal interest into consideration.
Until now, our answers have been very like CDC oriented. For those who have research aspirations, decision, your decision should solely be driven by your personal interest. Like it's a no-brainer. Like you want to go for higher studies in a branch, and like, yes, it's not like if you want to go for higher studies in a branch and if you take some other branch, you won't be able to achieve your goals. But let's say someone wants to go into mathematical research, a person from MNC will obviously have an edge over, let's say, some other person who took a department based on less load. So if you have research aspirations, it's a no-brainer. You should take the branch which aligns with your interests. So yes, that's about it.
So, would any other panelists like to add something to it?
I think if you're not sure that what you will be doing in the future, like you will be going for software or finance, then I think you can go for the branch which has more opportunities. If you're not sure of what you will be doing, so in that case. Otherwise, if you are sure that you are going to do research, then you should go for a branch. Like if you are interested in research in physics, then you should go for physics. Yes, that's what I would say.
Yeah, so I think that all the points are noted. So we can move ahead. So this is the question, like, do people regret their decision after changing their departments? Like, if anybody has regretted choosing a loaded branch just for the sake of placements and could not handle the load, if you could please guide us on this.
I think I can take up this question. I actually know a lot of people who have taken electrical department, which is obviously quite loaded, and then later on discovered that they're more inclined towards the consulting side and not just the tech or SDE side. So that's where people start regretting it, because obviously the consulting companies are open for all the departments, and since electrical is a very loaded department and they do not like the code, they do not want to get into the tech profile, and they do not even get time to explore other fields or to explore their own interests. So that's where people start regretting it. So it's really important to know where exactly your interests align. That's how you actually make the decision, so that you don't regret it later on.
Yeah, since she brought up the point of people coming into electrical and probably regretting it. If I was actually put in that position of department change again, I'd have probably taken up MNC. So my decision was driven by the fact that I really wanted a 4-year course. But in hindsight, I found out that my research interests, since I'm sort of inclined towards research, is actually much well served by an MNC course instead of an electrical course. So if you're taking up a department, just make sure that you don't do one of the following. Don't just solely look into whether it's a 4 or a 5 year course. Now I think the difference is it doesn't exist anymore because MNC is a 4 year course as well. And second, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Like, just be well informed of what the department itself has to offer, and just be ready for a very loaded, you know, curriculum which you won't actually be pursuing if you're actually picking a department.
One thing I would like to add, like, it's not as grim as we are making it out to be. On the flip side, what many people do is they do a DepC just because they had a good CG and like people tell them to get a DepC, but they start exploring in their second year and it turns out their department really aligns well with their aspirations, or they have an interest in the core of their department. So what we are saying is, don't take decisions impulsively, and once you have taken a decision, try to explore in the second year, try to explore your own department, try to explore everything that your department has to offer, and then arrive at a decision. So regret is a very strong term, but yes, try to explore everything and then make your final decision that what do you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like getting a DepC to a certain department completely cuts you off from your route. You'll still be doing well in life. Instead, it's probably gonna take some more effort from your side to probably get to wherever you're supposed to get. So yeah, like regret is, like Aditya Pal said, a strong word. You still do fine. It's just that try to optimize your decision.
Right.
Sure.
And adding to that point, if you really want to optimize your decision, you should actually talk to the seniors because since you've just completed 1 year in KGP, you may not have much idea about the department. So it's really important to talk to the seniors of every department. If you're confused between mechanical and industrial, talk to the seniors of each of the departments. Just gain insights about the placement stats or the course structure, about the opportunities that's there in each of the departments. And then maybe after talking to a lot of people and then maybe considering a lot of opinions, and then you can come up to a decision. So that's how you can do that so that you won't be regretting it later on in future.
And yes, adding on to what Neha said, course structure is a very important part. Like, I'll take my example. I wanted to get a DepC into MNC, but my CG wasn't high enough. So I had given up hope of a DepC, but then I went through the course structures of all the departments, and I found out that economics lines up very aligns very nicely with my research aspirations. Like, it's very maths oriented and the theory is very interesting as well. So don't stop exploring. Like, if you have sites on a department and let's say midway through your process you start realizing that this might be difficult to achieve, so start looking for alternatives. Just don't give up on your dream altogether. Like, you might discover something in the process which in the end you might be thankful that you actually dug through the resources and found whatever you were looking for. So yes, talk with your seniors, go through the course structure, and don't take impulsive decisions.
So Dhruv and Shiladitya, would you like to add something?
Yes, I would like to add one thing. Like, so for department change, you have an option to fill 10 departments in the preference list. So it is not necessary to fill all the 10 options, and you should, in the option list, uh, um, you should not uh, choose any department which you are not 100% like, you have no liking towards that department, still you are filling that department. That should not happen, because once you get a department change, you will have no other option to um, revert it back. So you have to make a very careful decision. You should talk with seniors and then fill the list.
So thank you all for your valuable points. So now let's move ahead.
So the last question from our questionnaire is, what advice would you provide to the people who are hoping to get DepC but were unable to do so? Like, what happens is most of people like me also comes up with the enthusiasm in the starting that we will be having a DepC and getting into the more like circuital branch, but we're not able to keep long due to some reasons. So what message would you like to give to them?
Right. Yeah. So
Well,
see first. Okay. Yeah. Do you want to
no, no,
go
you
first?
can go ahead.
Right. So see, like first of all, see, like don't consider DepC as like just the top of the world. Like that is a very important change in your life. It is not like if some people get DepC into circuital branches, then there'll be some elite class or something, and you're just missing out on a lot of stuff. It is totally not like that. Okay. It is pretty simple. Like it's just a change of the course you're going to study. It is not transferring you to some elite class, or you're not just there's nothing like that. And as we mentioned the previous question, as well as Visvesh said, if by chance you're not able to get a DepC, and your department like does not offer you exactly the route which you want to take towards your goal, then it's fine. It won't cut you off completely. You'll just probably have to spend a little more time or put in like few extra efforts, but in the end, of course, you'll definitely do well in life. So, and this is not the end of the world, and there's totally nothing to be worried about. And you'll probably, I mean, you'll feel a little bit sad that you didn't get a DepC, but like a few months into your second year, in hindsight, you'll be seeing that okay, probably not getting a DepC also was a good thing. Maybe you'll feel like I want to go into this branch, and then later on you'll see your friends who've gotten into that branch and it has gotten pretty loaded for them, and you'll probably be happy about not getting a DepC. So yeah, so there's nothing wrong about or nothing sad about not getting a DepC. So like totally don't be disappointed if this happens.
And yes, adding on to what Ashutosh said, life on campus is about much more than acads only. Like when you are on campus, you will be engrossed in so-called sports, etc., etc. So yes, you will be disappointed for some time, but then you'll get over it. And like let's face it, you are in an IIT, so yes, you have the capability to do something with your life. So even if you don't get a DepC, don't worry, all of you will end up in a good place. So yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. So, since you brought up the circuital thing, like one thing to note is that circuital departments are in general like the most work-oriented and most loaded departments. So you can actually think of it in this way that if you actually don't get into a circuital department, two things about it. First, it's probably going to be easier for you to keep a higher CGPA since like you will be in a department with say similar like people who have similar academic backgrounds from you, so it's going to take relatively lesser efforts to have a good CGPA to begin with. And second, you will actually have the time and the resources, of course, to explore multiple fields and sort of take your time with things, because the workload from the department side is in general going to be less than circular departments.
yeah, adding on to that, since I DepC'd from mining to chemical, both of these are non-circuital branches, and plus my interest lies more onto the SDE side. So I'd say it doesn't make a huge difference because the opportunities that you get in both the branches, because both of them come under the non-circuital branch, would be the same. So it wouldn't make a huge difference if you're targeting the non-core profile. So that's also one of the things.
Yes, exactly. Unless you have a very specific interest, like let's say research in a particular field, or let's say companies which only open to a few departments, you will be fine with or without a DepC. So
Exactly.
don't fret over it too much. If you get a DepC, well and good. If you don't, it's not the end of the world.
Yes, like Aditya has correctly pointed out that thing, and also like I would say, if you are going more into the tech profiles and all, so like a DepC, if you're not getting that, you should not regret much about it, because as like we have covered in earlier questions also, like most of the non-circuital branches also have like pretty much similar placement stats and also like that. And if you are going into some sort of a research into that department which you are aspiring for, there is like you always have a chance for doing a minor there, so you always have that, and that's it.
Since Shiladitya brought up minors, so in KGP there are some departments which, if you're a part of it, you can't do a minor in another department. Like the timetable will restrict you to not be able to do a minor. So if you're very driven towards a department and say you can't get a DepC to that department, just make sure that you can sort of pursue a minor in that department. Just make sure you don't get into a department which completely sort of disables you from doing a minor in a particular department, because minors are actually pretty useful when it comes to course coverage and like with respect to opportunities.
Yes, so adding to that, I think like if you want to do a minor in CS, then if you get a chance to DepC to circular branches like electrical, electronics, and even maths, then it becomes very easy for you to do a minor in CS, because some of the courses are already there in your department courses also. And yes, also, so DepC is not the end of the day. So people from all departments do well in all fields. So um, that's
Yeah, so concluding that it's not like if you don't get a depth say you would not be able to achieve good things in life, and vice versa. If you achieve a depth say, you would be successful. It solely depends on the hustle that you do afterwards in your life.
yes.
Okay. Thank you, guys. So let's move on to our next segment where we would be taking the queries from the chat box. So one of the query is, should we look for the internships and at the end of the first years, and what is the effect of them in our placements? It is somewhat not related to DepC, but I would like you to share your views.
I think I can take up that question. After the end of first year, I did talk to a lot of seniors, and a lot of people actually suggested me to focus much more on developing skills after first year. And then maybe try doing internships and projects by the end of your second year. So after your first year, maybe try doing some courses on internet, or maybe just explore different fields. There are a lot of fields that you actually can explore, and it can actually take proper time to develop skills in any of the fields. So after your first year, just try developing skills and not just focus on internships and projects.
Yeah, adding on to that, see, after your first year, you won't have spent a lot of time developing your skills. Even if you get an intern, the kind of work you will be doing there, it will be pretty menial work, like maybe filling up Excel sheets or handling data sets or something like that. So, I mean, it's not worth doing that because that is like no brain kind of work, and you'd rather spend like a few more months developing your skills and then getting a better intern later on in your second year. So yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't suggest blindly going for an internship just because you'll have something to write about it in your CV.
Yeah, just something similar to what both of them said. Your ideal route should be like, sort of explore things in your first year and your first year summer. And somewhere after your third semester, try to get a clarity about where you want to go. And then after that, try to work towards it. So your second year should sort of be a learning curve where you like make the most out of it. And it's wise to start applying for internships after your second year summer and going forward, because your skill set won't be developed enough at the end of your first year for you to actually get sort of good internships. So yeah, just focus on actually doing courses and improving your knowledge in your first year summers.
Okay, so I think that the doubts regarding this question is clear. So the next question is, what are the less loaded and the better placement branches?
I think we covered this.
Yeah, it's a repetitive question, but if you want a department's
Yes.
name in specific into industrial and systems engineering, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is, as far as we know, the previous year DepC, the last year cutoff was not released officially. So if you could tell that where we can find those, or you can tell of some of the branches, it would be great.
I think you can check it out on the Facebook page of Avaz. As far as I
Avaz
remember,
released it.
Avaz,
Avaz
हाँ,
and
it does
TSA
release
both
it, I
released
think.
it, if I am not wrong. You can go out there and check it.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you guys. So the next question is, considering a DepC from chemical to electrical, how does the increased opportunities weight in proportion to the increase in course load when compared to electrical from chemical? Like, I can paste the question in the chat box if you want.
Yeah, see, the circuitry departments, the thing is, firstly, the advantages which you will get is, see, in CDC, what happens is most of the companies which come are open for SD roles, because there is not a lot of variety you'll see in the company profiles in CDC. But like, this is not the case for your final placements, of course. You'll have plenty of opportunities in the core branches in all the departments. But in CDC, what generally happens is most of the companies are SD oriented, and since like these companies are just hiring for interns, they don't spend that much of time like carefully going through your CV, reading all your projects and all. So sometimes what happens is most of the companies do, they just look if you're in a circuitry department, if you have a CG beyond a specific threshold, and then they will shortlist your CV, and then you will be qualified for the interview rounds. So that is kind of one advantage you get in being in circuitry departments. And coming to final placements, see as like compared to the past years, see, as we're moving ahead, lot of tech companies are opening up for non-circuital departments as well. But there are only like a very few, I'd say like kind of giant companies, like I guess Google, Microsoft, they are only open to circuital branches. So like if you have specific goals in mind that I want to work with some of these few companies and you see that they're only open for circuital, then maybe going there is fruitful for you. And yeah, and considering department load, the circuital departments, as we said earlier, have you'll have to spend a little bit more time of yours in your code, because there'll be labs and all. In like you'll in electrical, and you'll have like almost 2 labs per semester, and considering an offline semester, it'll take up significant amount of your time.
Thank you. I think that it was pretty much insightful and covered all of the points. The next question is, if someone have an interest to research or work in a field but can't get a DepC, how effective are things like minors and specialization?
Okay, so since there's a research-based question, so firstly, when you're applying for research programs and when you're cold mailing, one common thing that professors do, like the universities do, is check your transcripts. So say you want to work in a particular department X and like you aren't a part of that department. So say you have taken up a lot of courses in that department, and say you want to work probably specialize in algorithms, and you've taken up 2 courses in algorithms at Kharagpur, it's definitely going to stand out in the professor's eyes. So a minor is some sort of is some way of telling the professor that you have actually taken extra efforts in another department despite of the fact that you aren't a part of that department. So that's one thing. Doing projects is another way to actually get into another department's research-based profile.
Adding on to that, what's more important than getting a minor is doing the requisite courses for the PhD program you want to apply for. Like, let's say, like the courses which are required for, let's say, a minor in maths and computing might not be the exact courses which you need for the PhD program you're applying for. So, like, if you have a clear-cut goal of where you want to go, apply for the courses, take up courses as your additionals, which will help you in your goal rather than in getting a minor. Like, let's say you have 7 subjects in MNC will get you a minor in MNC, if I'm not wrong. So let's say you do those 7 subjects, but out of them only 3 are relevant for your coursework. So you will be given less preference than a candidate who has, let's say, done 5 or 6 courses relevant to that course. So rather than getting a minor, check which courses are relevant to your work and then pursue them.
Okay, thank you. I think that the points regarding these questions are cleared and are well noted. Would anyone like to add something? Okay, so we can move on to the next question. So the next question is, if someone wants to pursue the core, should he or she still take up the courses in AI, ML, etc. to be multidisciplinary, or do courses related to core to have a deep knowledge?
I'm not sure, like, does the question say that the person wants to have an option for interdisciplinary switch?
Like, the person is having an interest in the core department, but so is asking that whether he or she should choose the courses like AI and ML to be like involved to become multidisciplinary, like edge in all things also.
See, if you have a very keen interest in your department, there are very like interesting courses which are offered as electives in your department, which are offered as depth electives. So you can take up those instead of taking AI ML just for the sake of variety, because these courses, there is a like, pretty good resources available on sites like Coursera. So you can get these courses done from there as well. But since your department, you have an interest over there, and there are many courses which may not be in your curriculum, but in your electives you'll have the option to take up like very specific courses in your department, which will like help you if you want to go to into core research in your department. So like do keep an eye for those, taking up those courses if you have an interest, rather than just taking up courses in KGP for AIML, because those can be done from online sites as well.
Thank
I
you.
think taking
Yes,
up
yes.
additionals is a good thing because, like in my case also, uh, I am able to do a course if I take it as an additional, but if I try to do it online, then maybe I will procrastinate and then at the end I will not be able to complete it. So if you take some additional, you get flavor of these different fields. So it is a good thing to take additionals.
Okay, thank you for sharing your views. So the next question is, how does economics compare to electrical? If a person is not too interested in the labs, he or she is interested in the data analyst and finance profile part.
I'll take up this question. So, see, if you are interested in finance, economics aligns very nicely with your interests, as we already have a few courses, already have a few subjects in our course which cover the basics of finance at the very least. And if you are into data analysis, with the revamped curriculum, AI and ML courses are going to be introduced in economics. So that will not only help you with your ambition, but economics as such is a slightly less loaded branch than the other non-circuital branches. So you will get time to pursue your other aspirations and explore other profiles. And if you don't like labs, like economics will also provide you a gateway into research if you are into that sort of thing. So yes, if you are not into labs and these are your interests, economics will go along nicely with your aspirations.
Yeah, adding on to that, electrical as a department by itself does not actually, offer courses in lieu of data science as a part of its core. Okay, what it does, it does two things. A, it makes your timetable sort of um, compatible with, you know, uh, these courses so that there isn't a slot clash of some sort. And B, it gives you more opportunities in some sense that more companies come open for it. So these are pretty much the only advantages you're gonna get if you switch to electrical in this regard.
Thank you so much for your detailed answer. So the next question is, what is the comparison of load in the electrical, EC, and CSE department?
I think in electrical and EC, the load would be similar because the courses are almost same. Only I think electrical has machines which EC does not have. And CSA, like I would like if Shiladitya would talk about that.
Uh, okay, so like in CSE, for the first 2 years after your first year, will be pretty much like a bit of loaded than other departments. And like its load is like very much like similar to your EE and EC branches also. In CS, you are going to cover like algorithms, both proofs and designing algorithms you have to do, and then you have some theoretical CS courses. Those are like pretty much difficult, and some pretty much interesting courses like operating systems and database management systems, networks are there also. So like the load will be like pretty much same, and it's at the end it's much of your depends on your effort on how you do them. So if you give very much like required efforts, then you can actually balance them up with other activities.
Uh, yeah, and another thing to consider is try to carefully go through instrumentation and electrical engineering curriculums, because instrumentation actually has a lot of like a lesser number of courses. Like in the fourth semester, they have close to 6 credits lesser than electrical. So unless you're actually very driven towards such courses like power systems or like electrical machines, it actually makes sense for you to take instrumentation over electrical engineering. So try to look for those extra courses and see if you actually want to do them. Because the general trend is that people prefer electrical engineering over instrumentation engineering. But from a software SD role kind of a point of view, it doesn't really make much sense. Because the opportunities that you get in these two places are going to roughly be the similar.
Thank you for your detailed answer. I think the answer would have cleared the query. So one more question is, can someone elaborate upon the difference of opportunity and course load when it comes to electrical versus instrumentation? It is covered, but if you would like to share your views more on this.
Yeah, so every semester, electrical is gonna have one or two courses more than instrumentation engineering, if not the same number of courses as instrumentation engineering. That's roughly the trend. And there are like some differences, like I think in the fourth semester, instrumentation has data communications as a mandatory course, while electrical doesn't. And we have machines and a lab component in place. So there are very small differences with electrical being more loaded than instrumentation engineering.
Thank you. Let's move to the next question. The next question is, are the difference between the opportunities between EC and CSE? As an EC 4-year student, what extra skills should a person learn to get a good tech job like a CSE person?
I think both EC and CS both will have to learn data structures and algorithms to get an internship in tech profile. So yes, I think in CSE they already have algorithms and algorithms lab that do give them some edge. So yes, that is one thing. In being in EC also, you can take algorithms lab as an additional also. And yes, so you for tech mostly people do competitive programming, and that is a thing which skill which you will have to develop.
So adding on to that, I think EC has actually introduced their own algorithms course going forward in the new curriculum. So I just suggest that everybody actually takes time to read through the new curriculum. If it has been made accessible to you, try reaching out to your faculty advisors if it hasn't. I think some departments have already released it and some haven't. So just try to see your possibilities of taking up additionals and the possibility of your interests actually changing. Because at the end of first year, I personally think it's not wise to restrict yourself to just an SDE role, but to actually explore and see if you develop an interest towards core electronics. Because there are very good companies like NVIDIA, Texas Instruments, Qualcomm, which come for roles like signal processing engineer, and these are very interesting courses as well. So try to explore before like you sort of blindly jump into an SD role just because everybody is doing it.
Yes, like we should do more research about the department before choosing that. Thank you for your detailed answer. So the next question is, when will be the notification be released for the DepC after the second sem results? Like when it was released your time?
I think after obviously the NSEM results, there'll be a notice via your which you'll receive on your email about the DepC criteria.
Okay, good. Thank you. I think that we are heard with mostly all of the questions. That's it. This marks us at the end of the session. We would like to thank all the panelists for taking up their time and joining us today. I'm sure the audience has gained valuable insights, and we hope to see some of them on the other side of the talk next year. We would also like to thank the audience for their patient hearing and hope you learned many things with us and got your queries cleared. All the best for your answer, guys.
Yes, all the best everyone, and thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you for having us here.
Thank you, everybody, and all the
Thank
best.
you, everyone.
Pleasure. Thank you.